Wave to the people on the left hand side now. Wave to the people on the right hand side now. Wave to the people with a pretty backside. Now we do it all again and we feel alright. A choco choco, 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 a choco choco. Everybody say chocolate, chocolate, a choco choco, 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 chocolate, a choco choco,
This is from before culture.
Okay, welcome everybody. My timing was a hair off here. Welcome. We're really excited to do. This is the second tasting of the chocolate with the chocolate bundle. And just to give everybody a heads up is if you have a paring knife, I highly suggest it is to cut them in half ahead of time. It makes it even easier if you're planning on eating the whole one.
Mark,
yeah,
Mark,
go ahead.
can you stop sharing your screen so we can see you in full frame?
Okay, thank you. How's this?
Got it.
All right. So everybody, again, it's Mark here with August Hill Winery. Welcome. We're looking forward to doing this. This is something we've been planning on wanting to do, and this is going on my fourth virtual thing I'm trying to do, and I'm getting better, believe it or not, but I'm far from being really good at it. Just really excited to do this with the chocolate wine. It's very popular, and obviously our favorite chocolatier and chocolates from Cocoa Blue today. But just giving everybody, just want to make sure that we're going to be starting off with the Catawba, and then we're going to be going to the Indigo. And also just a quick heads up on the Indigo. I don't have the cork here, but make sure you mix it. You want to make sure it's mixed before you pour it, because we love the shimmer. And then finally, we're going to be finishing up with the Augie's Blackberry. So I just also, you probably heard a quick noise from my sister Suzanne. Her and Emily are behind the scenes here working with us and helping us, trying to keep the behind the scenes, the social media, and you'll hear them chime in a little bit to help guide us in with the interaction. But I think right now is I'm ready to hand it over to our great chocolatier and close friend of mine, Joshua Becker.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I am, if you don't know me, I'm Joshua Becker. Mark and I go back to Lamoille. We both were kind of born and raised in Lamoille, Illinois. I'm sure there's people on here from different areas of Illinois or maybe the country, depending, but a little small town of, I don't know, 700 people these days. So that's how we go back. I know his older sister's babysat us some back in the day. So that's how far back we go. I am here in my shop in Rochester, Illinois. We are just outside of Springfield. We're just 5-10 minutes to the east of Springfield, Illinois, here in central Illinois. I have a business here called Cocoa Blue Chocolates, and it's a little 800 square foot shop. It's a brick and mortar that we do retail sales out the front of it. We also do some wholesale sales here locally with like Hy-Vee and some other local specialty shops. But then, of course, we sell chocolates up at August Hill Winery, which years ago started when Mark reached out to me. He's always been very, very supportive. And we started doing sampling chocolates. If you've been in their tasting room, you've had our our chocolates with the samplings. That's how we started, and then we slowly expanded our offerings there. To some mixed chocolate bags, sea salt bark, some basic bars, and then we added nut, some of our nut bars, pecan bars, peanut bars, cashew bars, and at this point they also sell our truffles. And I will tell you, I don't know if Mark even knows this, but Mark, you're the only place we sell truffles. I don't know if you realize that. It's the only place that we sell truffles other than my shop, because it's the only place I trust to be professional enough and handle our chocolates in the proper way. So we've been selling truffles up there for over a year now, which are available in their tasting room. A little bit about me. Again, I'm Joshua Becker. I own Cocoa Blue Chocolates. I'm a chocolatier. What a chocolatier means is that, like, I'm a chef with chocolate. We are not chocolate makers in the sense that I don't import bags of cacao beans and grind them and roast them and actually make chocolate from scratch. What we do is we acquire great ingredients and then make a great end product, kind of like a chef. A chef doesn't have to, raise his own cattle and pigs and have his own garden, but it's important for that chef to go out and find the best ingredients that they can out there, bring them into their kitchen and make the best product. So that's really what we do. So that means for our chocolate, we use mostly European chocolates, which means I need to stop at this point in the story, take you back a little bit to how I even got into this, which is when I was living in Lamoille, our little town, our little high school with 120 kids. I think I had 32 kids in my class, which was a big class. There was a Dutch exchange student from the Netherlands, and she and I started dating my junior year of high school and fell madly in love. And I convinced my parents to let me be an exchange student to the Netherlands my senior year of high school. Of course, I told them it was for the wonderful experience, but really it was just to follow my girlfriend home to the Netherlands. So my senior year of high school, I was an exchange student to the Netherlands and spent an entire year there, going to a Dutch high school, learning the language, living with a Dutch host family, visiting my girlfriend on the weekends via the train. So, but when I was over there, I started visiting some chocolate shops, and there was one in particular called Will Oliver's Bonbonnery, which had the most amazing chocolate I'd ever had. And I just fell in love with great chocolate. And it always stayed with me. And then when I came back from my exchange year in the Netherlands, I moved back to Lamoille, went to Illinois Valley Community College. For those of you from the area, you'll know about that. And then I went on to Illinois State University, got my degree in marketing. And then eventually went on to law school in Chicago and practiced law for 11 years. But during that entire experience of coming back to the United States, I would go to every chocolate shop I ran across and try chocolate. And I was looking for that same experience that I got in the Netherlands with this amazing chocolate. And what I found is that most of the chocolate shops here in the United States that I ran into were more candy shops, which they were focused on candy quality chocolates and not the high quality European chocolate I fell in love with. So after practicing law for 11 years, I went back to culinary school. I went to Le Cordon Bleu in St. Louis and learned the art of making pastries and chocolates and all sort of sweet sort of things. And then opened up Cocoa Blue Chocolates in 2013. And so we've been open for 6.5 years in our shop here, making everything here in-house using the best ingredients we can possibly find. And that's basically kind of who we are here at Cocoa Blue. I think the first thing we're going to do, and do you have any more of those sample packs, Mark, or did you? Okay, awesome. I don't have one of those. So what we're going to start with is just a chocolate tasting. And what Mark has there, he's got a sample pack. This is something new we've never done before. And it's got, starting on there's going to be 2 dark chocolate ones, a milk, and a white. Now, the key thing is those 2 dark chocolate ones are not the same, okay? You want to start at the end with the dark chocolate, and you want to start with that one first. And that little square that you're going to try first is 70% dark chocolate, okay? So if you haven't already opened it up, I want you to, open that up. There you go. That's, yeah, I've got the full screen. So I want you to open that up first and get that little square out. Now, the way to taste it, I know some of you are already doing it. What I want you to do is put it in your mouth, take a bite, and then chomp, 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 okay? The reason I want you to do that, I'm going to talk with food in my mouth. Sorry about that. I want you to chomp that up into little bits because that is what releases the flavor, okay? And then I want you to kind of swirl it around your tongue a little bit in your mouth. Now, what does 70% mean? What 70% means is that is 70% pure cocoa. So it's, what is pure cocoa? That's kind of like in your kitchen or growing up with your mom, you know, they would have that Hershey's cocoa powder that was baking powder, 100% pure cocoa. It's completely not sweet, very chalky. That is what cocoa powder is. So when you see a percentage on a chocolate, that means the percentage of pure cocoa. So what you just had was 70% pure cocoa. The rest of that bar is made up of a little bit of sugar, cocoa butter, and a little bit of vanilla. And so the first thing you'll notice, you know, it kind of clears the palate pretty quick. It may even have a little bit of a chalkiness to it. You know, it's not very smooth. You're not going to notice a lot of creaminess to it. Depending on what you've had to eat today, I mean, we're 2:40 in the afternoon. If you're like me, you've been snacking and eating all day. That's all I've done during the whole pandemic. But it's, you know, depending on what you've eaten, that may taste really bitter. It may taste really sweet. It kind of depends on what the last thing you had. If you've already been sampling your wines, that'll change it too. Yeah, it kind of clears the palate pretty quick. It's not very sweet. What we're going to move to next is a 54%. So if you're just moving down the bag, it's the next dark chocolate one. I will show you guys. I'm going to be tasting mine in the form of a frog because I didn't want to break apart a whole bar just to do a sample. So we have these little frogs we sell. This is 54%. This is what we call a semi-sweet. So everything that you're going to taste today in terms of the truffles that start chocolate is going to be what you're about to have or have already started. So let's do that. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Right away, you're going to notice it's sweeter. You're going to notice it's way creamier. And you're going to notice it. You're going to notice how much longer it stays on your palate and stays in your mouth. If you chewed it up, if you put the whole thing in your mouth and kind of chewed it up, you kind of notice it gets up in your gums and it kind of stays around a little bit while longer. And a lot of that is because it has a decent amount of cocoa butter in it. And the cocoa butter is what melts, but it definitely hangs around your mouth longer. It's sweeter. Still has a little bitterness in it because it is dark chocolate. And that's the 54%. And then we're going to do milk next, which is then becomes the brown one. Now, why does the color change? The color changes because it has milk powder in it. And that's why they call it milk chocolate. And we've all probably heard of the Cadbury company, right? At least because of Cadbury eggs. But it was actually Cadbury was the first company to, on a large scale, make milk chocolate. So Cadbury's been around forever. They were the originator of it. So we've got our milk chocolate coming up next. Same thing, put it in your mouth, chew, chew, chew. I'm going to skip this one right now because I've had a lot of chocolate today. So chew that up. One thing I want you to notice is see if there's any caramel notes that you're picking up in that. Milk chocolate comes in all different varieties. It depends on what kind of cacao beans are being roasted, how they're processed, how they're roasted, the variety that's roasted. And we like this one that has a little bit of caramel undertone to it. You'll notice that this one also, you know, very sweet, has a lot of creaminess to it. For me, it clears my palate a little quicker than the dark chocolate did. The milk powder tends to dissolve quicker in your mouth, but it's got a, I mean, I really like it. It's a nice flavor for me. And that's our milk chocolate. One thing people don't realize is that milk chocolate also has a percentage to it. The milk chocolate you just had is 31.7% pure cocoa. Nobody ever talks about that with milk chocolate. Everybody maybe has heard that with dark chocolate, but milk chocolate also has a cacao percentage. So that's 31.7. The last one that we have up is our white chocolate. And before we try the white chocolate, if you guys haven't tried it already, I want to just give you a little lesson on white chocolate. A lot of people ask me, Joshua, is white chocolate even chocolate? And my answer is always yes. Chocolate is made up of basically two ingredients, two basic ones that come from the cacao bean. Now this here is a cocoa pod. cacao pod, which comes on the cacao tree. So you can see it's got like a stem here. It kind of grows out of the arm of the, like the big branches. And inside of here are cocoa beans. And to make chocolate, what they do is they grind up cocoa beans into like a liqueur. And then they press them really, really hard. And what that does is it separates out the cocoa powder from the cocoa butter. And the cocoa butter is basically the fat that's inside of the cacao bean. And white chocolate, to be what's called couverture or pure white chocolate, has to be a minimum of 19% pure cocoa butter. A lot of you are very familiar with almond bark, which you get at the grocery store, which is not chocolate at all. That's why they call it almond bark. So white chocolate, couverture or real white chocolate has to have cocoa butter in it. And this is what cocoa butter looks like. And I'm not sure how well you guys can see that, but it looks like white chocolate, right? It's the same color. So cocoa butter, you know, the white chocolate that we use has actually 25.9% pure cocoa butter, but to be called white chocolate under a chocolatier standard, it has to have at least 19%. So in my opinion, white chocolate is chocolate because real white chocolate has to have a certain percentage of cocoa butter, and cocoa butter comes from this thing right here, which is the cacao tree and the cacao bean. So I do consider it, if you're using real white chocolate, it is chocolate. They just left out the cocoa powder part. So, so go ahead and try that if you haven't already. Certainly, you know, certainly pretty sweet. I think it has a nice creaminess to it. Vanilla, a little vanilla flavor coming through. Cocoa butter itself has no flavor, really. The other thing I want you to know about cocoa butter is that when chocolate melts in your hands, it's not the chocolate that's melting, it's the cocoa butter. Cocoa butter melts around 82 degrees. You know, and our mouths are much hotter than that, 90, 98 degrees, the body temperature. But cocoa butter is the thing that actually melts and gives that smoothness and the creaminess to chocolate. So you're not really tasting cocoa butter right now because it doesn't have a lot of flavor. What you're just tasting is milk powder and then also the vanilla that's added to it. So, so that's our base. What I wanted to do is kind of set a baseline for all of you out there as to just what chocolates we're going to go through today. And then we have a poll that's going to come up right now. This should come up on Zoom, and if there's anybody out there on Facebook, and I want to find out which chocolate sample did you enjoy the most. Why is it asking me to vote? It's asking me to vote. I'm not seeing the results this time. I don't know, Suzanne, what I've done. There we go. Okay, thank you. Sorry. All right, so far we've got 54% is the most popular milk chocolate, white chocolate, and nobody likes 70%. Okay, interesting. Which I guess, Mark, I don't know that should surprise us. This is our sweeter wine tasting, and so we had more people leaning towards sweeter chocolates. If they like sweeter wines, I guess that's their palate. That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, Suzanne, do you have a quick poll update since we can't see the Facebook?
Well, I have to switch over. I could give it to you.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, Mark and I just did the dry wine sampling, and nobody liked the milk chocolate as their favorite, and we had maybe one person liked the white, and a lot of people, the 70 and the 54%. So to me, it makes sense that someone that wants a sweeter wine, or the people like the sweeter wine, are going to lean maybe towards sweeter chocolate. So that makes sense to me. I've really been looking forward to seeing how the sweeter wines, how all of you out there like the sweeter wines with the chocolate, and how that changes based on your personal palate. So I'm excited for that. All right, Mark had already set you up for this. I think he's showing you the sweet Catawba right there that he's got set up. With this one, we're gonna do, we've got what, 4 truffles? 4 truffles to try with this one. So we've got the peanut butter and the hazelnut brandy. The peanut butter, we have that in milk and dark chocolate. And I want us to do the milk one first. And this one, so Mark, I didn't cut this time. So I don't know if we can see that, but that's our milk chocolate peanut butter. It's kind of got like a drizzle on top of it, just back and forth. So milk chocolate with just a drizzle back and forth. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut mine. You don't have to cut yours, however it works for you. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to drink the wine first, okay? So I want you to go ahead, get your glass, take a sip. And try the chocolate. There's gonna be a little bit of silence, guys, because I'm doing this along with you guys, and I don't want to rush it. And I don't want you to rush it. So you want to take your time and enjoy it. You know, after you kind of had that experience, you can take another sip. So Mark, my notes from when we did this, I just wrote just good. I don't know. I didn't have any in-depth analysis on this one. Do you?
Yeah, the fruitiness on the Catawba, and again, for us is like basically you have this peanut butter and chocolate, and then you go with the Catawba, which is so fruity, and it brings in the jelly. It makes it saying that the Catawba turns the jelly, so now you have peanut butter and jelly going on.
Yeah, and I definitely can get that, the sweetness of that. So now, that's really good. So I want you to try the dark chocolate one next. Now, it's the same looking one. It's got the drizzle, but it's the dark chocolate version. So I went ahead and just took another quick sip to kind of cleanse my palate. Another quick one. So I'm going to go ahead and try the dark chocolate peanut butter. So my first comment is that was really, really good. But before I say any more, so I want you guys to do this too, is take another sip. So after the chocolate and see what happens. So I really, for me personally, I really enjoyed the dark chocolate better. I think the sweetness of the wine and then having the dark chocolate, a little bit of bitters from the dark chocolate to me kind of leveled each other out better and made it a very enjoyable experience for me personally. I mean, everybody's got their own flavor. Mark, what are you getting from that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely, I feel like the peanut butter brings out the fruitiness, and just like I was saying on the milk chocolate, the peanut butter and jelly, and I feel like that's still going on a little bit. The interesting thing on this is I think the dark chocolate makes the wine taste a little bit less sweet. It brings out a little bit of dryness. There's still sugar in that wine, so it's not like it's not sweet, but it leaves and so that the chocolate, the dark chocolate, has tannins in it, and the acid in the Catawba actually accentuates the tannins from the chocolate and leaves a little bit of dryness on the palate that you see in a dry wine, even though the wine is still sweet. But it kind of brings out a little dryness on the palate. I think this is all fun.
Yeah, and this will be interesting. Mark and I are not here to tell you guys what you should be tasting. I think that's really important because we know that everybody's palate's a little bit different. And so We're going to tell you what we're experiencing. That doesn't mean that has to be what you're experiencing. But we want to just kind of guide you in terms of what we're experiencing, maybe what you can look for on your palate. I am more of a, I'm not as, my palate goes towards the dry wines personally. So I'm going to tend to say I like the ones that take the sweetness out of the sweet wine. So for me, the dark chocolate peanut butter went really well with the sweet Catawba because exactly as Mark described, it took a little bit of that sweetness out of it. And so even though I'm a chocolatier, obviously I love sweets. I mean, my whole life is sweets. I love, love, love sweets. But with the wine, the sweet for me sometimes can be too much. So and that's my personal experience. So it's not telling anybody what they're supposed to experience during this whole thing. So, which is the fun part of it, I think. Everybody can have their own. The next one we have up with this one are the hazelnut brandies. Now the brandy we're using on this, I've tried different brandies, and what I found is that it doesn't really matter a whole lot what brandy we use. We're using Paul Masson right now for our brandy. I'm not a big brandy drinker. I've tried it. It's not, just drinking brandy straight for me is not one of my favorite things. But in chocolate, it goes really, really well. I told you about my experience in the Netherlands and being over there. And one thing that they do in Belgium and the Netherlands is brandy and hazelnut and chocolates. And it's something that I fell in love with while I was over there. And that's something I wanted to bring to my shop here in Central Illinois. So we have the milk chocolate hazelnut brandy. So this is a ganache, and what that means with the ganache is that filling is chocolate and heavy cream. So we have chocolate, heavy cream blended together, and then we add the brandy after the fact. So this is not like cooking. You know, a lot of chefs will say, well, it has wine or alcohol in it, but we cooked it off. We're not cooking off the alcohol. So there is a little bit of alcohol that actually comes through. Now it's a minute amount, but it's definitely not cooked off. So we've got the milk chocolate one. It's going to look like kind of like this. And what you have on top there are some toasted hazelnuts. So we get hazelnuts in and we toast them in-house ourselves to bring out the flavor. Any nut that gets toasted is going to bring out the flavor. That's the whole point of toasting nuts. It really brings out that flavor. So we're going to do the milk chocolate one first. So go ahead and take a sip. Take a sip and take a bite.
Sorry to say, Josh, as everybody's watching here, I'm one of the lucky few that are able to sit out here in our tasting room. And I wish everybody else could be joining us here on this, but this is fun, Josh. These chocolates are incredible.
Well, thank you very much. This is a lot of fun to do this. I wish I was outside, but I will be soon. But I think with this truffle here, I think the interesting thing is that I'm not getting really much brandy. I don't know about how you guys out there, but what I am getting is all that hazelnut. And so what's happening for me with this one is that when I took a bite of that hazelnut, the hazelnut really popped. I don't know if hazelnut is a nut that a lot of you are very familiar with, but you know, you've had Nutella maybe. Is you getting Nutella in this one because you're kind of getting the sweet, you know, Nutella is basically, you know, hazelnut paste with chocolate in it. And so it may bring out a little bit of, you know, Nutella for you as far as that one goes. But for me, you know, I come to all of this looking at from a chocolatier standpoint, which means what does the wine do to my chocolate? And so for this one, when I took a sip of that wine and then had a bite of the chocolate, for me, it made the hazelnut really burst for me, which is great. So, but because I did just have, you know, wine on my palate, the brandy to me doesn't come through anymore because I already have an alcohol, you know, on my tongue. So, but that's not a bad. It's not a bad thing at all. It really just brightens the hazelnut, which I think was really, really good. We also have the dark chocolate version of that. So, you know, same thing with the little nuts on top. The reason we put nuts on top is not just for decoration. but it's also, the problem with chocolate is that chocolate can be so powerful in terms of coating your palate that it can hide everything else. So if you only have the hazelnut on the inside, you kind of lose that burst of hazelnut. So that's why on this one we did some toasted ones on the outside. So you get some hazelnut hitting your palate first. So that's what that's all about. So I'm going to take my sip. Mark, what do you have down for your notes on this one?
Well, I feel like the great thing about the Catawba with this hazelnut chocolate, it's a great in a palate cleansing way, just refreshing. But with this dark chocolate, I feel like the little bit of the acid that's going on with the Catawba and the dark chocolate accentuates a little bit even more so that hazelnut bitterness that you see from the nut standpoint.
And I totally agree. And I hate that I'm so biased in the direction of liking the dark chocolate, because I think that's an unfair example for you guys. But because this is very sweet, for me, again, the dark chocolate, you know, the bitterness is actually coming out a little bit more for me. And I have, like, on my teeth right now, I have a little bit of that 70% almost. You know, when we did the 70% sample, kind of had a little bit of chalkiness or something, and that bitterness on my palate, which is really good, which I think creates a great balance. I think that makes it a good pairing, which when I first got into this business, everybody was just reading up on different pairings. Everybody's like, well, you know, sweet wine, sweet chocolate. But as I've worked with people like Mark and gone through this, that's not always the case. It really depends on what your palate is and what you like. And so you can absolutely pair dark chocolate with a sweeter wine, and it can create a new experience, which I really enjoyed. All right, looks like we've got our poll up right now. Which chocolate did you enjoy the most with the sweet Catawba? I'm gonna go ahead and put my vote in there. I'm a really huge fan of hazelnut. Again, it's something that in Europe they use all the time. Hazelnut is used in pastries, it's used in chocolates, one of my favorites. In addition to the hazelnut brandy, we also have a hazelnut truffle here that we don't sell through Mark yet, but through August Hill, but it has no alcohol in it. But we have a milk chocolate and then a dark chocolate hazelnut, which are some of my favorites. All right, let me see what we got here. The dark chocolate hazelnut brandy is the winner on this one. Nice, 63%. I'll tell you, that's the one I voted for.
Yeah, actually, Josh, on Facebook, I'm seeing Emily just brought it out to me, and the hazelnut brandy is also the top choice on Facebook. It's pretty much very close amongst everybody, all of them, but it's squeaked out by the dark chocolate hazelnut.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think we're all getting the same thing with that one. I think it's a balancing of the sweetness of the wine with the chocolate, which brings out a really nice flavor. It doesn't enhance the hazelnut as much as in the first one, but it creates a nice balanced palate. And I will say, as a chocolatier, more often than not, that's what I'm looking for, is a nice balanced flavor. I'm not a big fan of kind of smacking somebody in the face with a flavor. I mean, sometimes you want to do that. But like, I don't want to punch you in the face with a flavor necessarily all the time. I want it to come at you with like a little bit of subtleness. So you're like, wow, that's really good. What is it? You know, there are times where you want someone to be like, wow, that tastes like this. Like peanut butter, we can't hide peanut butter. There's no subtleness to peanut butter. Peanut butter is peanut butter. But more often than not, I kind of like the subtleness of like, wow, I really like that. What is that? It's a hint of this, a hint of that. And I think that's a great way to do it. So. All right, now we're going on to Indigo, right, Mark?
Yeah, it's Indigo. So again, if you've already poured it, make sure you swirl it. If you haven't poured it, make sure you do it, because the shimmer actually affects the flavors of it. And when we're working at it from a wine standpoint, is definitely we're memorized by the shimmer of what's going on with it. So we want to be drinking at the same time. So yes, the Indigo is the one that whoops, here we're on to next.
I think the fun thing with this Indigo is I'm not 100% sure, Mark, because we haven't talked about this, but the edible glitter portion is probably similar to what we use on our, some of our truffles here, that we dust an edible glitter on some of our truffles to give them a nice shimmer, which we've done in the past when we've done a champagne one. So you can see the name of my shop is Cocoa Blue. So of course, I love this wine because it goes really well with Cocoa Blue. So this one,
Josh is sharing out our secrets. But yes, it is. It's basically a glitter that's used in the confectionery business, and that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
That's what it looks like. It's awesome. Now, Mark, we haven't talked about this one very much. It's I think what I run into this sometimes with the color of my chocolate is people see a color and expect it to taste like something. Like, I don't know if people come into this expecting it to taste like blue has a taste, you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
what can you say?
Yeah, so Sarah, the assistant winemaker with us, is kind of that leads our charge of our shimmering products of the Emerald Apple and the Indigo. But the Indigo specifically, we're kind of looking at a cotton candy effect, this fruitiness, sweetness, lightness, so we're looking at more of a little bit as like, if you could imagine cotton candy being in a wine, this is kind of what we envision.
Okay, that's awesome explanation. And that's, I mean, obviously then blue is a great option for that. Now, before we're going to do this with the bourbon, I hope you guys have held out for a minute. So the bourbon that we're using for this is a Maker's Mark. Excuse me a second, I've been talking for a while. Now this is a very special Maker's Mark. There's a local brewery here called Ingrained Brewery and Restaurant, and Brent Showar, the owner of that, he's a big beer guy. He makes his own beer, but he also loves bourbon, and I love bourbon too. So he went down to Tennessee, went to Maker's Mark, and he made his own bourbon. So he and I have been pairing up, and he sells this through Ingrained Brewery. But so this is a Maker's Mark bourbon, and the thing with bourbon and chocolate is you do not want a smooth bourbon. The smoother the bourbon, the more it disappears in the chocolate. So you want a bourbon that's going to have a little bite to it. It's got to have some underlying flavor to it. So that's why we like to use this, because this actually has some underlying flavor, a little bit of from pepper notes to spicy notes and different. So it's going to come through better. So with this one, we're going to start with the milk chocolate. Now this one has like a ribbon on it. I already cut mine, Mark, so I don't know. It kind of has like a ribbon effect on it, kind of like the breast cancer where it's kind of a ribbon. Yeah, like that. I call that a ribbon. So we're going to do the milk chocolate one first. So go ahead and take a sip. Then do your chocolate. Now, the first thing I'll comment on, because we just did the hazelnut brandy, and I said you couldn't taste the brandy. I'd be curious to know how many of you can actually taste the bourbon. I can still taste the bourbon. Where with the hazelnut brandy, I felt like the bourbon was lost. I'm sorry, the brandy was lost in it, but the bourbon is not lost in this one. It still comes through pretty strong, and that's more of a chocolatier thing, where that's why we use that bourbon. So you're still getting bourbon, you're getting the milk chocolate. Take another sip, see what happens. So I have some notes here from Mark, from Mark and I talking before about a chocolate martini taste a little bit here. you're getting some alcohol, you're getting some sweetness, you know.
Yeah, Josh, this is like, I guess I shouldn't say childhood memories, but I guess because I'm not no longer 20 years old, but definitely went back in my 20s with my sisters and enjoying the times, and when we it brings back fond memories to me of the chocolate martinis. And yeah, this is, I really love this pairing because it just it brought back memories, but also brought back, I think, is a fun drink that I miss actually.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun one. We also have, you know, the dark chocolate bourbon as well. So I don't want you guys to like overdrink, but I'm not encouraging anyone to get drunk out there. But if you could just take another, I'm getting some good signs here. So so go ahead and take another sip. I'm giving you permission, and try the dark chocolate.
I don't know if it's a permission that they enjoy to drink or they enjoy our stories as we drink more, Josh.
See, for me, with this one, is that, again, it's kind of with that dark chocolate, where the dark chocolate is hands. The bourbon tasted really good with that one for me. I think the sweetness of the chocolate, which isn't overly sweet, and then the wine kind of balance each other, which let the bourbon kind of roll over my tongue. Like at this point, the chocolate and the wine kind of cleared out my palate, and I had kind of some bourbon roll through my palate, which was kind of fun. And it's nice. I'm not trying to rush this, but at the same time, I don't want this to take 2 hours. So it's kind of fun sometimes just to sit there, you know. So maybe we take a minute with this one. I did the Indigo. I did the bourbon. I'm not taking another drink, just kind of letting it sit there and seeing what comes over your palate, you know, the longer it sits. Is it just chocolate? Is any of the wine still residual there? You know, what happens? So at this point, I'm down to just chocolate, but there was a point there where, you know, the bourbon kind of rolled over my tongue, which was really nice, I thought. So, and again, I'm enhancing, I mean, the dark chocolate. Mark, you've talked about this somewhat. You know, the acidic effect of wine. I don't know if this has, you know, does that play in this one at all, Mark, in terms of acidity or anything? I mean, does this not have any of that?
Yeah, I definitely still, you know, the dark chocolate brings out the tannins. You still get a little bit of that dryness. But also, I feel like the key, which the acid does do it, but I think the other thing is like if you took a bite of the chocolate and if you had a chance to take another bite of it, the chocolate sensation on the second bite and with the bourbon wasn't even close to what your first bite was. You got this whole sensation of the alcohol that was going on with it, where when you had the wine in between it cleansed the palate. Yeah. And so when you came back on the chocolate again, it just kind of brings back that initial experience again.
Absolutely, I agree, and that's part of probably part of, you know, describing what I said, where I felt like that bourbon was able to kind of roll over the tongue, and the bourbon was enhanced because it does cleanse the palate and gives it a really nice flavor.
Right. Well, and also, Josh, real quick is, you know, water, you know, a lot of times we use water as a cleansing palate in everything we drink and just as a thirst quencher. And I think it's a great usage. But like in this case, is the wine actually has even a greater effect of cleansing the strength of what's going on with those initial chocolate flavors that are still sitting on the palate of the tongue.
I think that's great. That's a great point. We've got one more with the Indigo, which is a white chocolate key lime. So here's the story behind the key lime. So before I opened up Cocoa Blue, I had a hairdresser. Her name is Andrea. And she was, she's my hairdresser, and she knew I had gone back to culinary school. And she says, "Hey, Josh, I'm dating this guy, and he loves key lime pie." She goes, can you do something with like key lime and chocolate? So I was like, sure. So I gave it a try, and I experimented for about a week. Again, this is before Cocoa Blue ever opened. I think it was at the end of my training at culinary school. So I tried this key lime one, came up with it, and again, before we opened Cocoa Blue. And so the key lime, before you eat it, I want to, the key lime one is one of the first 5 truffles I ever made. I have not changed the recipe for it. I've not changed the way we make it. It's been around for 7 years, and it's been one of our most popular ones. Now, to make the key lime truffle, what we do is we start by toasting graham cracker crumbs. We go ahead and we put a little butter in those and toast them together in the oven. And then what we do is we have a hollow truffle shell, and we put a little bit of those crumbs in there. So we put some of the toasted graham cracker crumbs in the bottom of this shell, because this is supposed to be like key lime pie, and key lime pie very often has a graham cracker crust. So it's got a little bit of that in the bottom. And then we do key lime juice and a white chocolate butter ganache. I only use butter in about 2 of my ganaches, and this is one of the ones where we use butter. So it's got real butter in it, gives a nice smoothness. We use the key lime juice and then the white chocolate. Now it's hard to balance that, because white chocolate's so sweet, but you want the acidity of the key lime, to come through, and that's hard for us to achieve. But key lime pie is white. We can't use, I don't want to use milk or dark chocolate in a key lime truffle. So that's just kind of the background on this one. You can say thanks to Andrea, my hairdresser, for the key lime truffle existing. Go ahead and give her a sip and give it a try. Wow. I love this one. For me personally, this is the one that enhances my truffle the most. It makes that key lime kind of burst for me. It gives it some more of that, and I just this is probably my favorite. Let me take a drink of the Indigo now and see how the truffle affects the wine. See, for me, I think there was enough kind of key lime juice in there that it just softened the wine a little bit. I don't know, that's probably not the right term. I don't know what Mark's terms are, since I'm not a winemaker, but a little bit of the sweetness lost. And maybe because the truffle was so sweet, the wine doesn't taste as sweet. Or maybe it has more to do with, the key lime juice in there. I'm not sure, but I like this one. This is my favorite overall, from the way it enhanced the truffle, and then taking another drink of wine, the way I like the wine. I mean, I thought that was a great segment for me personally.
Yeah, Josh, I see what you're saying. For me, I feel like this showcases the truffle. It doesn't necessarily showcase the wine,
Yeah.
but because it basically makes the key lime truffle just burst. So it's and again, I think a lot of these pairings isn't necessarily saying, oh, it needs to make both things better. Does it accentuate the experience? And in this case, I love them both on their own, but man, that key lime truffle is incredible with this. It just makes it totally burst.
I completely agree. Sometimes I don't want to be too self-focused, Mark, and selfish, but yeah, your wine makes you make my truffle so much better. I mean, I love that. I think it's totally bursts with and we found that before. We've done we have a limoncello truffle that has lemon juice in it. And if you put that with the right wine, it makes the lemon just burst as well. And this is the same experience here, is that The key lime is one of my favorite truffles, partially because of the story behind it, which I just told you guys, you know, how it was one of my first ones and how much I loved it for that reason. But so it's always been one of my favorites. And for Mark to be able to do something with one of his wines for me to make it love it even more is pretty cool for me. So I love it when a wine can make it taste even better. Now listen, Mark and we just went crazy over how much we love the key lime. Do not let that influence you as you vote. That's just us. So go ahead, you can submit what you guys like, but for us, that's the one that knocks it out of the park for us. Now that's let me see what we got here. The bourbon, dark chocolate bourbon. Okay, nice. Now, I don't know, Mark, I don't know if you have Emily or whoever you got there. It's going to be able to tell us what Facebook is saying, but interesting. That's I don't disagree with that one at all, though, because I really liked that experience for me. The way the dark chocolate balanced out the wine, and then the bourbon kind of rolled over the tongue. So that's how I describe that one. So I really enjoyed that one. So I'm on board with that. So for sure.
Yeah, Josh, it's somewhat similar. A lot of key lime fans there too, but the dark chocolate bourbon was there, and actually my favorite was the milk chocolate bourbon. I'm the least of the vote.
But see, this is and that's what I hope everybody out there is hearing. I mean, we all look to Mark as the wine expert. You look to me as the chocolate expert, and he and I, he was the milk bourbon is his favorite. I was the key lime, and you guys were all the dark bourbon. And we're not here to tell you you're wrong. I mean, the public votes, and you tell us who's. I mean, you're telling us who's right, which is you guys. I mean, that's the largest percentage. So. That's the fun part about this, is that we all have our own ideas about what we really, really like.
Well, I think everybody probably can agree that they're all fun and good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes even like if you find one you don't like, I actually enjoy that because it helps you educate yourself on what your palate is or what you like or what does and doesn't go together. Mark and I would never try to put something together that doesn't taste good, obviously. We want everything to taste good, but even us, there's some we agree go better, don't go better with our own palate. So it's very interesting. The third pairing that we're going to do this one is flying for me, Mark. I don't know about you, but this is going really, really fast. So we have the Augie's Blackberry. This one's been around for a long time, Mark, right? I mean, you guys have been selling this. I mean,
yeah, well, Augie's Blackberry is, if the one wine that if my grandpa, who we named the winery after, which he never knew of the winery, would have been Blackberry. So I felt like wanting to do that. So this was one of the original wines that we made with the Augie's Blackberry. And we just to let everybody know is we have something really, really special coming out with Augie's Blackberry here soon that we're going to be announcing in the next coming weeks. And there's not many. So just giving you a heads up, I still just throwing something out there that you guys are actually the first ones to hear. I haven't said this out loud.
I had not heard this either, guys, just so you know. This is new to me too. So, but yeah, I remember Mark, as much as Mark has supported me from the beginning, I followed Mark from the early days of August Till too. So I remember this one, being one of the originals. So now this one here, we've got a milk French caramel, a dark French caramel, then an espresso. So the French caramel ones have these little circles on top, okay? And we have a milk one and a dark one. Now, French caramel, why do I call it French caramel? It's kind of a fancy term just to get people's attention, but really it's because it's French because it's classic. And this is another one that it's not a true ganache in terms of just chocolate and heavy cream blended together. What I do with this one is I take I take sugar, mix it with a little lemon juice, just not to add flavor, but just to keep it from the caramel from kind of crystallizing. and I cook sugar in a pot, and I cook it up to 247 degrees. So it's like a nice dark amber color. And then once it's a nice amber color, I pull it off, and I add butter to it. Just good old, a ton of butter. Like Paula Deen would love this if any Paula Deen fans out there. I mean, like we just like 3 sticks of butter we put in there. That butter melts out, and then once the butter's melted out, we add heavy cream to it. And then I add just a little bit of vanilla. So this is like probably the purest ganache we have, just in terms of sugar, cooked sugar, to an amber color to make the then butter, heavy cream, and vanilla. That's it. It's the trickiest one I make of all because it's very, very temperature sensitive, and also humidity, things like that. Now, I don't know if everybody has one, or if you guys have to cut this one, or if you have to bite into it. I'm not sure the numbers on this one, but I always say it's a little more fluid. It's not really fluid, but you can see it kind of drips out. It's kind of oozes, I guess. In terms of that, it's not like the caramel that we use in like our turtles or our salted caramels. It's not a harder caramel. It's more. It has a little more viscosity in terms of it to it. It's probably the one I'm most proud of. This is one. It's fairly early, probably one of the first 8 truffles I came up with. 100% my recipe that I just created from scratch. Some of these truffles I've created from scratch. Some I've modified other recipes. And there's only like probably 2 that I totally stole from a famous Belgium chocolatier. But yeah, this one is one of my favorites. We're gonna do the milk chocolate first. So we're gonna go ahead and get your Blackberry. Do your chocolate. And I really like this one. The first comment I wrote on my paper when Mark and I did this was just wow. The caramel that we use for this is not overly sweet. When you cook sugar, it actually becomes bitter when you just cook sugar to a dark amber color like that. It becomes unsweet, and more bitter. So that's what we do with the caramel. And then all we're adding is heavy cream and butter to it. So we're not adding a lot of sweetness to it. So this particular caramel is not naturally very sweet, this filling. And I think that, I love that caramel. I love what it does to the caramel flavor. To me, it kind of enhanced that. Let me take a drink again. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Mark, what are you getting from that one?
Well, it's fun because Augie's Blackberry is almost a dessert on its own.
Yeah.
Many people we love it on its own. But this, I feel like, is like if you could envision a chocolate caramel brownie that also had blackberries in it, and with that acid and the fruit, it's like I kind of want to figure out how to make the recipe, but instead we'll just get your chocolates and our wine, and we'll tell everybody that's their chocolate caramel blackberry brownie.
Oh my God, I totally agree. If you could imagine a brownie that tasted like that, I completely agree. Instead, I'll just make my truffles, you just make your wine, and we'll just have people buy both of them, right? But that, yeah, really, really enjoyable. Like you said, that chocolate blackberry brownies, really good. I'm gonna take another little sip here before we do the dark chocolate version of that. My palate tastes pretty clear, at this point. So we have the dark chocolate version of that. It's the exact same filling. So everything I just told you, same thing. Go ahead and give it a try. So first thing I really like about this is like the arc of the taste through your mouth. Because you kind of have the sweet dessert wine, and then you get the caramel. But then that caramel clears the palate really quick, and then you have the dark chocolate that's kind of finishes it. So if you did the wine and then the chocolate, at this point, if you haven't done anything else, you're probably having that dark chocolate on your palate, which is, to me, is a really good balance from that going from the super sweet and then the caramel and then down to the dark chocolate, which is less sweet. And that's how I'm experiencing that personally. And I'll try a drink afterwards.
Yeah, Josh, and Augie's Blackberry, and this is the one wine that we pair with your individual chocolates. And when we first started, so every person who comes and tastes Augie's Blackberry, they get to try their favorite type of chocolate with it. And honestly, this was actually probably our hardest pairing to figure out because there was too many chocolates to choose from. It's like there's so many chocolates that go great with the Augie's Blackberry, and this is trying to create different experiences, and it's fun because the Augie's Blackberry with the dark chocolate, I feel like accentuates the dark chocolateness. It just and because blackberries have a lot of acid, and so you get that accentuation of dark chocolate, and so for those dark chocolate lovers, I feel like it gives an extra burst of it.
Yeah, and I totally agree. That's where I was kind of that arc it takes me through is that I get to enjoy the wine and then a little bit of the caramel, but then at the end it's all about accentuating the dark chocolate and how that finishes on my palate, which I really, really enjoyed. The last one for this is going to be the Espresso, which is this one here. So the espresso truffle is going to be the square one. It's a molded chocolate. The way we make this one is that I actually, we have these polycarbonate molds, which I import from Belgium. Kind of the European, I let people think of Swiss chocolate a lot, but really the Belgians are top notch as well. And so we have this mold, this polycarbonate mold that I fill with chocolate, let it sit on the counter for a while. And then when it's at the right point, I empty out the chocolate. It leaves these empty shells with this little coffee bean on top. And then we fill it with the ganache. And this one here is it's a dark chocolate espresso ganache with this espresso extract that we create that we put in here. Surprisingly, this one actually has a little white chocolate in the ganache. And I don't think, you can't see it and you can't really taste it. But we actually do put a little bit of white chocolate in this ganache. And I mean, if you look at that ganache when I cut it open, you don't see it in there, but it's in there a little bit. One of our best sellers early on, again, this is one of our original 8 truffles that we've ever done. I keep talking about the newest ones. I guess I'm the oldest ones. I haven't really talked about some of the newer ones that we've gone through. Let me see. I guess really this pairing is really about some of our most classic ones. I would say the bourbon one is the most recent one. But anyway, so there's the espresso one. So, I mean, listen, after dinner, dessert wine, coffee, I mean, right? So we're heading in the right direction here. So go ahead and take a drink.
Take a drink and sit back and relax, because I feel like this tasting is like kind of like the nightcap.
Yep. Mark and I specifically did, kind of pick this one as the last one to do because it is kind of like the nightcap. I would say my favorite of this pairing. A really nice combination. I think the enhancement of the espresso is something I'm really enjoying with this one. Personally, I really like that flavor that comes through.
It's like this, for me, is this blackberry latte. It's incredible, and unfortunately, a latte is supposed to not have alcohol in it. So when you're drinking with the blackberry, it's not like you're cooling down the alcohol at the end of the night.
But
Man, this is good.
yeah, I'm just gonna do it again here. So hey, I'm still enjoying it. I'm not ready for the poll yet. All right, here we go. Now listen, on the last, why is there no too hard to choose poll here? Because this may be too hard for me to choose.
Yeah, I forgot on this one.
I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you. But wow. I don't know. Let me see. I'll put my vote in there. But this is a tough one for me. Although nobody picked that in the last poll. Too hard to choose. It's really enjoyable.
Well, Josh, oh, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, okay, I also went with the espresso in the end because I really enjoyed that and the balance of that. That's interesting.
Facebook with similar results.
Okay. Really, really enjoyable as far as that goes.
Well, I hope, yeah, Josh, this is obviously all three on this last pairing was difficult. I think it was good and it was a lot of fun. Josh, this has been fun. I can't say enough, and to be putting this all together. The great thing is there's more chocolate out there if you want chocolate. So I want to, obviously everybody knows here we have the curbside pickup and we're doing a little bit of deliveries on Fridays, and we're also do lots of shipping now. And we also are carrying a number of the chocolates. But also you can get chocolates directly through Josh, and I'm going to let Josh talk a little bit about stuff if you want to get some chocolates directly from Joshua.
Sure. I have no idea where you guys are from out there, out in Zoom land or Facebook land. We're just outside of Springfield. If you're very close to here, we are doing curbside, pickup here. We do have an online store at cocobluechocolates.com. There's a shop now button where you can go on and shop. The one thing I don't have on there is picking specific truffles that you may have really liked today. It's a little hard for me to put that online. Obviously, everyone's world is a little different right now from you personally, which I feel for all of you out there that are having to change, your work situation. And of course, Mark is changing his. So we've been ramping up our online store. We've had it for a long time. You don't have the ability to pick specific truffles right now, but if you wanted to do that, you can just absolutely call us and we can take a credit card over the phone. Otherwise, you can order online and get a sample of different truffles that we have. We do have shipping available. This time of the year, shipping's not inexpensive. It's around $20 just because we have to ship everything in insulated boxes with ice packs and things like that, which it's a little expensive, but you can fill up a nice box for the shipping price. You can put not only truffles in there, but things from our peanut butter bars, sea salt caramels. We sell turtles, all sorts of things that you can stick in a box if you're looking for it. We also have a Mother's Day special coming up, and we're going to put together a special gift box that'll have 12 truffles. It'll have our little mom lolly here that we have. It's got a local candle that we have here. It's going to have some local lip balms and things like that, which will be on sale for 40 bucks. But yeah, starting next week, we're going all in on shipping. So to help us through the summer, so we'll ship it in a cold pack with ice packs in there, so it'll get to you safely. But yeah, if you're in the area, you can passing through. We are really only 5 to probably like 7 minutes off the interstate. So if you're ever traveling to St. Louis, you want to stop in and get it. The nice thing is when we fully reopen, you come in, you get all those delicious smells of chocolate. When you get to come in the store, we have a completely open shop. You can see behind me, you can see the workspace behind me. There is no closed off kitchen. It's a completely open business because we wanted to have you come in here where we can talk to you, educate you, and you can see what we're actually doing in here. So you know that we are making it in-house. You know, we're not, you can see us making it, and you know that just kind of the love and passion we put into what we actually do. So yeah, check us out at cocobluechocolates.com. The best thing to do also is follow us on Facebook, because that's where we communicate with you on a daily or every other day basis. You can see, you know, what's new today or tomorrow or what's coming up. So.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Again, cocobluechocolates.com. You can definitely get the chocolates there. I highly recommend it. You know, as we've been mentioning through here, is we've been we have close ties with them. So you don't have to get them through us. Get them directly through Joshua. But also, we're working on new and future things with Josh, and be able to have the chocolates ourselves here. So if you're locally and want to get the chocolates here, you can get that as well. Also, oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say, again, I don't know if I mentioned it today, but like, you know, August Hill Winery is the only place I sell my truffles other than my own shop, because it's the only place I trust to have kind of the professionalism to monitor the truffles, to make sure they're fresh, and that someplace I know can sell enough. So you guys, anybody that lives up in that the LaSalle, Peru area, Utica, Ottawa area that is close enough to go by, you know, you are the only place that you can get our truffles. And I really appreciate, you know, Mark and August Hill and all your staff there at the tasting room selling our truffles. So I'm happy for you to go to Mark. If you're buying from Mark, you're buying from me. So, you know, either way works really well for me.
Well, the big thing is we know the popularity of chocolate and wine just from this bundle. And so as we're moving forward and through these changing times, that is like we can all, everybody here is going through their own changes. So we're all figuring things out, and so keep an eye on what we're doing, and also please start to connect with Cocoa Blue. But we have some cool and exciting things that we're looking to start doing here soon, and we're really, both us and Cocoa Blue are really looking forward to opening up soon. And for those that are up for getting out, we're hoping to do things, but you know what, we're planning on still trying to do the most accommodation and ways of handling things with people that are that need to be that are in these type of conditions. So cheers, and thank you guys all for joining us. And yes,
cheers.
And
cheers to all of you.
Yeah,
thank you so much everyone out there for supporting August Hill and Cocoa Blue. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.